Hey y'all, welcome to Girl Meets Green. My name's Norma, your host or whatever. Today we're talking Heartbreak High season 2 for like the 6th time, I swear. I've made videos where the sound got messed up. The first one I uploaded everything, was just too boring for my liking. So we're trying again. We're just gonna get right into it. I'm giving Darren season 1, which is kind of funny because I'm doing season 2. But, you know, the uniform for the place he works at. I mean, they work there in this season too. So maybe I'm giving Darren Harper and sometimes Cash, even though he was just a delivery boy. But anywho, I'm going to take the hat off now. I just wanted to give you guys all the vibes for the intro, okay? We're going to be doing this a little bit different. I'm going to be going like character chunk by character chunk. So rather than like in episode 1, boop, 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 I'm just gonna go storyline. That's what I mean. It's storyline by storyline, like for each sets of characters. So some characters might be here more than once. So we're gonna start off with our main duo, right? Harper and Amry. So that's kind of what the story's supposed to be about, right? Like Amry and her friendship. But anywho, Harper and Amry are back for term 2. Let me just say though, the intro scene is so adorable. It's like Amry, Harper, Darren, and Quinny like seeing each other again for second term. And I'm obsessed with Darren. They are just everything to me. Okay. But anywho, so it's term 2. Amry is like, Harper, I'm here to protect you, baby. Like, I am on protect Harper mission. Focused. Nothing else matters. They're taking a class photo. Something happens with Anthony. We'll talk about it, his part. But everybody runs out to see. And then when they run back in, Harper can't find her backpack. And she's like, someone's messing with me. And Amry's like, no, like, it's fine. Darren probably took it. Come on. So when they find the backpack, there's a dead bird on it. And so now we're like, what's happening? Like, why is there a dead bird here? Harper is like, it's Chook. It's Chook. Amry's like, no, like, it's probably Spider playing a prank on you. She's like, no, it's Chook. If we don't remember, Chook is the main echet in the whole case debacle. So they go on about their day. They get home. Harper's staying with Amry, remember? And there is a dead bird on the doorstep. And so Harper is like, oh my God, it is Chook. He's after me, and now he's after you. Right before this, they like are trying to figure out if it was Spider, but Aunt tells them that Spider's scared of birds because of a bird attack when he was a kid. They test that out by bringing a bird, and he is. So it's not Spider. Bird on the doorstep. Harper's like, it's Chook, and now I've brought danger to you. Amry decides to take Quinny and Darren with her to sneak into Chook so they can get proof that it was him so Harper can relax, or that it wasn't him so Harper can relax. They get caught by Chook. Chook is like, girl, like, we have a case against us. I'm not touching y'all, but I'm pissed that you out here accusing me of shit I ain't do. Get up out my house and don't bother me again. Don't push me. Don't push me. So now we are at school, right? We are introducing the candidates for school captain. The school captain candidates are Spider, Sasha, and then Amry decides to go up there. She's like holding a dildo as she's like doing her little speech of like, I want to make a difference. So then we are all chilling in the cafeteria or whatever. And Amry gets a text. It's a picture of her up there. And it's like, essentially it says like, you're not a good person. Like, I'm coming for you, Bird Psycho. So then they realize Bird Psycho is after Amry, not Harper. So it's definitely not Chook. And now we need to figure out who it is. When we move into the next scene in the next episode, Amry, there's like a message board that has been started and people are like bombarding it with how they don't like Amry. And all the things she has done to them. So that's about what's going on with Amry here. As it involves Harper, we'll move into what's happening with her and everybody else in a moment. But with Harper, the basics are, she gets officially emancipated, so she's on her own. She's currently living with Amry. But then she is struggling with the case. There's the scene with the whole like lawyers, you know, badgering you, and then they're like, this is what the other side's gonna do, like you need to be ready. And so she's overwhelmed. She ends up like beating up Anthony at one point just because of like everything going on and feeling powerless against specifically men, of course. Principal Woodsy takes a liking to her. She's teaching her how to drive. She's really connecting with what Harper's going through. And eventually Harper decides to drop the case. She's just like, I want to drop the case and I want to move on with my life. So she drops the case, which means they all get out. We'll talk about that later. She eventually moves in with 2 other people. We'll talk about it later. I don't want to like let it out. This is Zoe. She's more of an honorable mention just because I was like, I'm going to include her. She was a new character in the season. Zoe is the Purity Club, okay? The show starts off with her like 69 days pure. No nothing. No self-preservation, nothing, okay? And so she's in this. She's being a nuisance, right? Because you always have like purity girls versus sex positive girls, all of that. Eventually, she ends up in Sluts. It kind of opens up to other perspectives is the idea of what's supposed to be happening there. And so, yeah, she's just the purity culture representation, I guess. And they believe she's bird cycle for a while, but she gets ruled out. What else? She plays a part in Darren's storyline a little bit later. We'll talk about that. But essentially, that's her. You know, like, she's representing purity culture. She's very, like, ew, you're gross, you sex positive girl. Like, no, I'm so, like, clear-headed, enlightened, yada, yada. At one point, there's, like, a school camping trip, I guess, or whatever you call it. Cabin trip. That messes her up. Like, she self-preserves. So she starts over, but she's still all about purity culture, okay? She messes up, but she gets back on the wagon, which we love, okay? Nothing wrong with purity culture, nothing wrong with sex positivity. It's just when you're trying to shove it down somebody else's throat. You know, like you do you, let them do them. Moving into Ant, so we can talk about what happened to him that I mentioned first. So he comes in with Spider. They're giving Harper and Amry a hard time because Dusty has been sent to an all-boys school because of everything that happened the year before, and they were blaming them for it, which is hilarious, isn't it? At one point, there's like an argument, a skerfuffle. Amry ends up pushing them both down. Anthony had these little edible gummies that fall, and he eats them all. Then he's like walking around high as heck trying to flirt with girls, and they're like, ew, creep, get away, creep. So he's like, oh, I'm a creep? Well, then this thing is the problem, like his penis. So he gets on like their courtyard or whatever, and is like about to cut it off. So that's when like someone runs in to the school pictures and is like, Ant's outside, he's about to cut his penis off. So they all run out. They're watching it. He's like, this is the cause of all the problems, so I'm gonna cut it off. And then this PE teacher that was there before, but like is returning, I guess he was gone for something, tackles him down. So he's safe, he's fine. We have a scene of like some sort of get together thing that happens later with him and Harper, where he's just like, I don't know like how to not be a creep. I want to be a good guy. I don't want to be a creep. And she's like, well, maybe start with being friends with a girl. And so this is like clearly the start of their friendship. Harper later ends up beating him up just because of everything she's dealing with. She goes to apologize. Her and Aunt start making out. And she tries to take it further, but he's like, no, like, I remember Joe's conversation about consent and how you have to look at the whole picture. He's like, and I just don't think this is what you want right now. And she was like, oh, look at you being a good guy, right? It's being made obvious that Harper is the person he's going to befriend. He does become friends with Harper, but then he starts to like her. He's scared that if he tells her, she'll think that that's why he became her friend. So he's battling with that. Eventually he tells her. She doesn't necessarily receive it well, and he's kind of like, no, like we're mates, it's cool. She doesn't say anything, but it's clear that like she's struggling with it. And he's like, it's cool, we're mates. And then this big tragic thing happens, and she comes back, and they're like hugging and dancing together, like slow dancing together. So it seems like they got together, but there's no like confirmation. They don't like say it. They don't kiss. They're just looking at each other. Now we're moving to the PE teacher, and he basically represents like incel culture. He's very much incel, like giving so much incel, it's insane. Spider ends up walking out of Sluts. He's like, this is just a man-hating club. Like, I don't want to be here, blah, blah, blah. And he takes a few guys with him. The gym teacher catches that. So the gym teacher goes to them and is like, we're going to start our own club, our manly club, right? So that's how Cub Lords is created. And yeah, they dig holes, they toss tires, like they're just doing stupid stuff. It's so dumb. At one point, Sluts and Cum Lords go on a camping trip, which I'm assuming is supposed to be some sort of bonding, trying to get them to get along situation. Joe tries an activity that doesn't work, so he blindfolds them, takes them into the woods, and is like, we're gonna let them figure out how to get back, and him and Joe leave. We'll talk about that trip as it pertains to like characters and things that happen for them on that trip. But yeah, so they get back to school. There is a food fight that happens. He ends up throwing a piece of cake at Principal Woodsey. They go to talk about like what's happening. The food fight happens because of the results of the school captain race. In that conversation, he calls her, see you next Tuesday. And she's like, you have 20 minutes to get your things and get up out of here. Yep, she fires him. But he will be back. He will be back. There's a school dance. I don't remember if it's homecoming or prom or what it is, but school dance. He comes back with his little crew. He tries to get Spider in it. Doesn't happen. We'll talk about that. They have made like a penis shape out of gasoline on the field, but someone added a third ball that connects to the building. So when he puts a torch down that he has and lights it, it lights up the building. The building's now on fire. He gets locked up. Let's get into Quinny. So we have Quinny. She becomes bird psycho obsessed, okay? She decides to be the detective that's gonna figure out who bird psycho is. So Quinny is investigating, okay? Zoe's her first, like, suspect. On the school camping trip, she's investigating. That's when she rules out Zoe. During the school camping trip, they find mushrooms. They take them. So everybody's high, except for Quinny. She didn't get high. So she's like, ooh, perfect way to weed out bird psycho. The next morning, I can't exactly remember what it is, but like her phone is ringing somewhere, and I believe she had lost it. And so she's like, oh, whoever has it is bird psycho, because her phone goes missing and there's like a conversation played on the speaker that like, I think of the girls talking or something. I don't remember exactly how it happens, but she's basically, she needs to get her phone because wherever it is going to reveal bird psycho somehow. As she's walking, she gets bit by a snake. So she's down on the floor, out for the count. Everybody the next morning is looking for her, and they find her. They get her to like safety. Joe had already called emergency services because they hadn't come back. She was like, I never should have let you do this, to the incel BE teacher. Quinny is okay, but she's still obsessed with bird psycho. Darren and Amry go to check on her. She has this big wall, you know, the red string wall situation to figure out who it is. She's talking about it. And so Darren's like, we need to get her mind off of this. So he decides they're going to go on a zoo trip. They're all in green. Amry is like a frog. Like, it's a whole thing. They're taking her. It ends up in an argument because she's like, oh, everything's changing. I just wish it'd stay the same. Darren doesn't exactly say the right thing. And he's like, well, people can't not change because you don't want them to. And she's like, oh, you know what? You're right. She's like, you know what? I'm going to worry about number one. I'm worried about me. So Quinny goes to live her best life, just doing her, prioritizing herself. We love that for her, though, honestly. So she's fighting with Darren, though. So she's not, like, necessarily talking to him. During the class captain speeches or whatever, she has to give Amry's speech. We'll say why later. But she does really well. So she ends up being voted for class captain. She accepts. She's like, you know what? I can do a better job. So she takes it. Sasha winds up finding some flyers that identify who bird psycho is and goes to Quinny with those flyers. Quinny quickly figures out who it is once they have the flyers and they're looking at all of her evidence that she's built up. They go to confirm, then they go to the school. Quinny ends up running into the burning building to save Amry and Harper from bird psycho. So Quinny is a true hero, if you ask me. Let's get into Sasha and Spider. So we start off with scenes of them hating on each other, right? Like, you know, you're in slots, you're a Camelot, like weird. But then there's some tension building. They're starting to feel each other. So then they start hooking up, right? They're like, oh, just hookups, whatever. But it's always like Spider pleasuring her, and they never like go all the way with each other. And so she's kind of like, why? Like, what is the issue? So she shows up to Spider's house because she's like, I'm going to find out. But his mom's there, so she's decided to have dinner with them. His mom's an alcoholic and a man-hater. She's like, men are all gross, even my son. She talks about having nightmares of police coming to her door to tell her Spider has raped someone. Like, just awful. Awful mother. So Sasha starts to get an understanding of Spider. She's like, oh, okay, I see the picture. I see what the issues are here. And so they go up to his room, and she's like, what's the deal? Why won't you for me? Why won't you do the thing for me? He basically ends up telling her he can't get it up. Like, he's tried, it doesn't happen. And he's like, okay, you can leave now. Like, you can run. She's like, no, it's fine. So, like, they lay down to watch a movie. In his room, he's got all these posters of naked girls. You know, like, his room matches him. And she's like, you know, you don't have to be that way just because, like, your mom says you are. Like, okay, if that's what you think I am, that's who I'll be. And she's like, you don't have to do that. And then they are, after watching the movie, she's like, I can dance for you. And so she starts doing, like, a sexy dance for him. She drops it low, and she farts, and she throws him to the bed, and she's like, no, you have to fart, you have to fart, you have to, like, you have to fart, you have to make it even, like, no, 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 no. So she makes him fart. He throws this, like, lame fart, but then he gets it up. It's like, oh my God, you're nasty. Like, and it's clear that, like, he just needed an intimate connection. Like, he wasn't someone who could just boink to boink. He ends up going to Joe, and he's like, I want to be a better person. Like, what can I do? You know, Joe is essentially like grand gestures. You show people by doing things. So he decides to drop the race so that Sasha and Missy can win. That pisses her off. So now they're fighting. This is where the incel PE teacher shows up, and Spider goes, and he's telling him the plan. And Spider is like, this sounds like a bit much. Like, what do you mean? The PE teacher slaps the shiznite out of him, and he's like, oh, I gotta go. So he, like, goes inside, and he's, like, apologizing to the room. It's directed towards Missy, of course. And, you know, he's like, I don't want to be this person. Like, I want to be better. Like, I know I've hurt a lot of you, but, like, I want to be better. And then that's when they're like, oh my God, like the fire or whatever. Or that's when they all run outside because the PE teacher's outside. Like, they're about to do their thing. After the fire that the PE teacher sets, something happens that makes the DJ set start playing a slow song. And so Sasha walks over to Spider and, like, takes his hand, and she, like, is dancing with him. And they kiss, like, making it clear to him, like, I want to be with you out loud and proud. Because I forgot to mention, he, like, starts developing serious feelings for her, wants to be with her. She reciprocates the feelings, but, like, she still doesn't want it to be public. And so after they fight, she makes it public. Essentially, I want to be with you. Now we're going to get into the triangle that is Amry, Malachi, and Rowan. It's a complicated one, okay? So let's start with Amry and Malachi. Amry and Malachi see each other at the beginning of the season, and Malachi's like, I've been trying to give you your space, but, like, I thought that, like, you know, we could keep going, keep doing what we had. And she's like, I know. She's like, but I really have to focus on Harper. But they end up doing a do anyways. But then she's like, no, really though, I have to focus on Harper. But then Harper's kind of like, girl, live your life. So her and Malachi are back together. Then Malachi is struggling some things we'll talk about in a little bit. They argue. He basically is like, can we keep it casual while I figure my shit out? She's like, yeah, totally cool, casual. Y'all know Amry can't do casual. Amry obviously starts getting anxious, paranoid, all the things because of the keeping it casual thing. The cum lords at one point, they dig this big hole, and the guy's like, the reason we dug this hole, we're gonna write our, like, deepest secret, deepest thoughts on a paper, put it in the hole and forget about it. So they do that. Amry, being paranoid, takes Quinny with her to dig up Malachi's secret. But then Bird Psycho ends up setting her up. He puts all the secrets on these tombstones for everyone to see. So secrets are out. People are pissed. They leave a picture of her to frame her. Why would she leave a picture of her? But okay. So everyone's pissed at her. Malachi's pissed at her and breaks up with her. As you can see, Malachi and Rowan do become a thing. Yep. So the thing Malachi was struggling with was feelings for Rowan. Principal Woodsey makes Malachi Rowan's, like, little tour guide for the year. And so they get to know each other. Malachi starts liking him. He's confused by his feelings of him. That's where he tells, like, Amry to keep it casual, whatever. But when they break up, he's like, no, we're done. I'm with you. So they're together. They get together openly. Everybody knows it. Everybody's like, okay, Malachi, okay. At one point before this happens, Malachi talks to Darren, and Darren's like, yeah, like, whatever. But yeah, so they're together. But then on the camping trip when they're on shrooms, Malachi is seeing Rowan as Amry. He keeps saying Amry. So after the trip, Rowan breaks up with him. He's like, I don't want to be a part of this mess. Like, you figure that shit out. Malachi's heartbroken. So this is where we have a little bit of a love triangle situation going on. Amry starts to get close to Rowan. He's helping her with, like, a campaign video she decides to make. Rowan and Amry start getting close. They're hanging out. But Rowan kind of gets mixed signals because there's times where Amry's like, oh, can we hang out next time? Blah, blah, blah. And then at one point, they are at a housewarming, and Amry and Rowan end up kissing. Amry ends up realizing she's missed her period and she's pregnant. Convenient timing, huh? So she ends up getting the pill. I'm from the US, obviously. So I guess there you can, like, get the pill and take it at home yourself. So she gets the pill. She went to try to tell Malachi about the pregnancy. It's Malachi's. Her and Rowan haven't done anything. But he saw her and Rowan kiss at this party. So when she comes, he thinks it's to tell her that. He's like, you know what? Like, I don't need your shit. I got enough shit going on. I don't need to hear your shit. Leave me alone. And she's like, damn. Like, my bad. Because obviously she doesn't know that he knows. So she goes to Harper. She's like, yeah, he was kind of a dick. But anywho, so she takes the first pill. The next was supposed to be taken in 48 hours. So she thinks she'll be fine. She'll do the presidential speech today and then go home and deal with that in the 2 days after, whatever. But when she gets to school, she's like in excruciating pain. Malachi finds her. He's like, I'm gonna get the nurse. She's like, no, get Harper. And Malachi and Harper take her to Harper's place to like basically experience the process. This is where Malachi finds out, and he's like, oh, so you're telling Rowan? And she's like, the fuck? Like, sir, is yours, sir. But, you know, he helps her through the process. Malachi ends up walking Amry home after the whole thing. Rowan sees it. So he's livid, pissed, okay? He goes to school with these flyers, which are the flyers that I mentioned Sasha finding. But then he sees Amry. She's like, yeah, no, I was sick. It was a whole thing. Like, and he's like, were you with Malachi? And she's like, yeah, but it's not what you think. Like, it's me and you, man. It's me and you. So that's why he throws away the flyers. There was basically these flyers. She sends him this sexy picture at one point when she cancels a date so that he doesn't think that she doesn't like him. And he put them on a flyer and was like, oh, she's a slut, blah, blah. So those are the flyers that Sasha finds. Rowan ends up threatening Malachi. He's like, stay away from Amry. I forgot to mention that Malachi's mom has gotten a job in Sweden. And so he has the choice to either go with his mom immediately to Sweden or be there a year later because his dad has to finish his work contract. It's a year long. So he's deciding between going with his mom or staying with his dad. Malachi is grappling with that decision. He goes to Harper to try to tell her about Rowan threatening him. Harper's essentially like, you still love her. You're trying to F her shit up. Let her be happy. Like, leave her alone. So he's like, oh, okay, so she's happy with Rowan. I'm going to leave her alone. So he decides he's going to leave. He's like kind of doing his goodbyes. He writes Amry a letter. We have this like long eye contact moment with him and her. She doesn't know, but he like leaves her a letter. They all go to the dance. At the dance, Amry is talking about how like she envisioned going with Malachi, and in that she tells Harper like she thinks she still has feelings for Malachi, and Harper tells her what happened, and she's like, what the heck, why would you make that decision for me? Because also Missy's in the bathroom drunk because of the fight with Spider, and she's like, fuck him, like he's in the sky, like, and that she reveals that he's left. She's like, what the hell? And then Harper reveals her part, and she's like, what the hell? Rowan at some point overhears this. So then when the fire is set, Rowan ends up trapping Amry and Harper in the AV's like sound booth. Turns out when they were kids, Rowan used to live there. Him and Amry were really good friends. They used to wear these bird feather capes. These other kids come to make fun of them for it. She blames it all on Rowan and like leaves with those kids. So she's like, now she's friends with them. Rowan goes home upset. I guess he has a rage issue, as we saw with Malachi, and moments where Amry like canceled plans that he would flip out. Rowan ends up going home that day as a kid. Flips out, is like breaking everything. His brother's trying to calm him down and can't. So his brother goes to get his parents, who are at some pub nearby, and ends up getting hit by a car and dying. He blames Amry for that. So this whole plan was to get even with her for his brother, all of that. They're trying to talk him down. He's like all heartbroken and confused. So he just sits down and he's like, we're all gonna die. He sits to die, leaves them in there to die because, you know, the building's on fire. And so this is when Harper ends up coming in to save them. Amry leaves Quinny comes in to save them. Amry leaves Harper with her, goes back to get Rowan, ends up talking to Rowan and just kind of being like, you know, we can, like, you can change from here. You can do better. You can be better. Like, we can all be better. I saved the best for last. So we have Cash. He's looked up. Darren is supposed to be going to visit Cash, but then when he goes with Amry to Chook makes them think that Cash had a role in what they were trying to do to Harper. So they end up not visiting Cash, run into Grandma. Grandma's like, what the heck? Like, why did you leave him hanging when he needed you the most? They're like, no, like, you have to understand, yada, yada, yada. So the grandma's like, go tell him face to face. And my favorite scene of the entire season, at one point, the Eshays that are locked up with Cash were like, hey, you got to put Chuck on your visiting list. He wants to see you. They call Cash for a visit. We are seeing Cash sit down. Then we see the other side of who's coming. They start at the feet. It's like Eshay Nikes, Adidas track pants. We roll up to like the polo with the chain. And then it's Darren. It's Darren coming in the Eshay fit. Because they were like in a skirt. Grandma was like, jailbait. No. So she puts them in that. They're walking in, chewing gum, giving strap boy. Okay? Giving strap boy. Can I just say James? I like it. James can play any role. James can make that money. But anywho, sit down. Cash is like, I get it. You had to, go on about your life. And Darren's like, you're my life. And then, so then Cash is like, well, then what happened? So Darren explains to him what happened. Like, not explains to him, but Darren is like, I just need to know you weren't involved. And so Cash freaks out because he's like, how could you think that I would be? Darren is like, don't be upset. I love you. He's like, how could you love me if you think I did that? Like, we're done here. Like, he waves the guard and he leaves. As I mentioned, Harper ends up dropping the charges, so they are released. So they're walking out. Chuck is parked there. The Eshays run to Chuck. Cash is just head down, kind of walking. He looks up. He has Chuck to his right, Nan and Darren to his left. He must make a decision. The episode where this happens is at the end. It ends like that with him looking at both cars. He chooses Nan and Darren. So we see that because he goes to try to talk to Principal Woodsey to go back to school. She's like, no, I can't. Safety of the students, yada, yada, yada. And then we see him go back home where Darren is in his bed. So it's clear that he chose them. But then he's dealing with Chuck trying to contact him. And he's avoiding Chuck. So he ends up finding like a pill in his room. He gets high. He's walking around town dancing and acting weird. He's also, though, feeling like he's missing out because he's talking to Darren throughout it at school. And so he's like, oh, man, like I'm missing things. And he goes home and Chuck is like banging on his door and then he hides. And so he realizes, right, like I got to figure something out. Principal Woodsey, as I mentioned, was helping Harper. When Harper and Cash talk things out at one point, she finds out that he's not allowed to go back to school. She talks to Principal Woodsey. She's like, you're going to let him fall through the cracks. And so Principal Woodsey lets him back into school. When Principal Woodsey goes to talk to him, she finds Chuck choking him and trying to be like, you need to make this right. I owe money. You need to help me fix it, blah, blah, blah. I mentioned Harper moving in with someone. It's Darren and Cash. At first, Cash is fully against it. They don't get why. It's clear that he's worried about their safety. This is proven because he's having dinner with Nan and Nan's boyfriend one night, and Chuck throws a brick through the window. So he goes to Chuck. He's like, what do I need to do to make it even? Get me even. I want to be done with you. And he's like, okay, yeah, one more job. So then Cash is like, let's move in. We're moving in together. So they move in. They have a housewarming. During the school camping trip, during the school camping trip, in a game of Never Have I Ever, Cash reveals that he has done things with people. So they kind of fight because Darren is like, why can't you do them with me? But then when they're on shrooms, they kind of make up because Cash is like, you're my life, you're my soulmate. Oh, they're just so beautiful. I can't deal. They're so beautiful. They end up making out, and then he has Darren touch himself. But then at one point, Darren gets confused and tries to do it again. And he's like, oh no, I'm not going to want to do that all the time. And so it gets confusing because, Darren wants sex, he doesn't. But then with the whole Chuck situation, Cash is Chuck takes him on a boat to deliver these drugs or get these drugs. I don't know. The boat stops working and Chuck is like, we're family. How could you do this to me? I got you at that group home before your nan knew who you were. I was the one who saved you, this, and that. I gave you your nickname Cash, which, by the way, why would the show ruin the nickname like that? It was such a cute nickname. And now I'm like, please don't call him that ever again. I'm just pretending I never heard what it is, but I'll tell you guys. Basically, it was child of A use and self armor with an H. So that's where the CA and the SH come from, Cash. Why would they do that? But anyways, he's giving this whole speech. He's like, it's your fault. You ruined things. And Cash flips out. He's like, I didn't ruin anything. You did when you put her in that car to do that to her. And he's essentially like, this isn't family. I'd rather die than be involved in this. I'm cool. And then Chuck turns the boat on. So the boat was never off. But I guess Chuck kind of plays a fatherly role. So he's like, okay, I get it. And lets him go after that job, I guess. But then when Cash is getting back home to the housewarming party, they see him getting out of Chuck's car. So Darren is pissed, leaves. Harper's pissed at him, obviously, because it's Harper. And so, yeah. Cash is trying to make it right. He explains to Harper what happened. Harper's like, okay, I get it. Cool. You'll never be around him again. Darren had left for a few days, comes back. It turns out Darren was with Dusty. When Cash finds that out, he's like, what the hell? So he goes to Dusty. He's like, what's your deal? What you want with my man? What you want with my boo? And Dusty is essentially like, it's not fair to him. He's sexual and you're depriving that. You need to let him find that happiness, blah, blah, blah. That makes Cash break up with Darren. Darren ends up joining Purity Club because he's like, if I can figure out how to not want this, we can be back together, blah, blah, blah. Nan the night of the dance, Nan goes to Cash and is like, you need to put this suit on. I want you at the dance. Go have your fun at the dance, but also go get your bands back, okay? Go get your boot back. She basically tells him, like, there's always going to be issues. You just have to decide if that person's worth it and, like, if you're going to let you be worth it for that person. Essentially is what she gets at. So he goes to the dance. He sees Darren. He's like, this isn't you. Respectfully, ladies, this isn't you. And then after the fire happens, Darren walks up to Cash and they're like dancing and they kiss. And so to me, I was like, they're together, but I don't know, maybe they're not. Was that clear enough? I don't know. They better be together. I'm gonna be pissed. Like the video if you enjoyed. Comment down below. Did you love Darren's Eshe scene or did you love Darren's Eshe scene? Subscribe for more content like this and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.